Saqib Khan. I'm so excited to get some time with you, Field CIO with Tanium. You are a very in-demand individual, so thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we on the Platformation side are very excited about this partnership. And I kind of want to get into some of the technical nuts and bolts with you so that I can learn a little more about Tanium and the capabilities that complement ServiceNow. So my first question for you would be, if you could explain from a technical perspective, what is it that Tanium does really well that is a gap on the ServiceNow side?
Yeah, I think when you think back to historically how we've implemented CMDBs and implemented other products of ServiceNow, the common challenges across every industry is really, at the technical front, it's really figuring out what type of strategy you're going to have for source of truth. And data fidelity, data integrity are two key disciplines that differentiate Tanium anything else out there, including even the native discovery capabilities. And why that matters is, in the market, Tanium's differentiator and Tanium's key value is being able to have real-time data. And real-time in the context of we are always on, we're always syncing, and we're always providing the CMDB as a source of truth for ServiceNow in real time.
How does Tanium achieve that? What is sort of the inner workings of the Tanium platform that allow you to do that?
Yeah, good question. The patented architecture that we have was developed over 11 years ago. And this is something that we're very proud of. This is something that's very unique in the market. The ability for us to chain computers and connected devices together, to be able to get away from your typical hub and spoke architecture, to be able to take the infrastructure layer out of the picture and only have an agent on a machine and a specific Tanium server and not have to communicate back and forth between those two. Instead, let's link them all together and let's have the agents talk to each other. And so when these agents talk to each other, you reduce the dependency of the corporate network, the back and forth between agent and client, or agent and server. And what you really get is the ability to fast track and expedite the results that come back from the Tanium environment, from the environment to Tanium. It means that you no longer have to worry about the back and forth and latency in the network. And now you can depend on a single agent communicating all of that traffic back. So it's a very complex, very, I would say, scalable architecture that allowed us to start with the highest and largest organizations in the world to be able to prove that this architecture actually scales and gets faster as you scale.
And what company does not want to be scalable, right?
Right.
And it's interesting too, because it sort of seems like maybe there's this full circle trend, like things are coming full circle with the agents on the servers, right? Because my understanding is for a while there was this perception that we wanted to get away from using agents. Is that correct? And now there's sort of this trend where we're seeing more remote work and we need to remove the barriers for people working remotely and things like that. Would you say that that is a trend that's happening now?
Well, think back to COVID, when suddenly we had to be at home all the time. And now that we're post-COVID, it still applies. The principles still apply. A lot of people are still remote. A lot of people are still hybrid. Some are back to the office a few days a week, etc. But the main point is that our ability to then take the agent-based approach and ensure that is a redundant model to existing data sources, like, for example, agent lists, works in every environment. And what that means is you can't have highly regulated customers and environments have credentials passed in sensitive environments. You can't have a non-agent based solution authenticate and provide data unless you're on the corporate network. So unless you're on VPN as an end user with your laptop all the time, there's a disconnect between the CMDB and that device. So it becomes even more important to ensure that you have an agent that is always on, but also that agent is not dependent on the corporate network or the VPN. And that's what we really focus on is the ability to do that without all those dependencies. So we're always on, always connected, and always providing value.
Speaking of themes, can you speak to some of the themes or trends that are going on right now across various industries that's sort of precipitating the need for this integrated capabilities?
Absolutely. I think when you think about the key industry, like I'm personally involved in some of the largest banks in the world, largest retailers, etc. And some of the challenges and themes that I see often is the ability to do more with your source of truth than just inventory. So a good example is for the banking industry, the ability for us to detect unauthorized changes in the environment, file, folder, registry changes. This is something that every public company is almost mandated to report on 7 different compliance regulatory requirements. And so every year they're audited on this ability to know what's going on in the environment when things change. A server that has sensitive data, someone's making a change on it, and then being able to report that, and not just report it, but have a process that allows you to do something with that data. And so my point is that the theme really right now, especially with financial institutions and banks, is that we need to be proactive in continuously monitoring for things like unauthorized changes. That same agent of Tanium does that for you on top of the inventory it provides. Continuous compliance, continuous monitoring. And that into ServiceNow means that you can now correlate with open changes. If you correlate with open changes, you know exactly if this is a authorized change or an unauthorized change. If it's a malicious change, and that malicious change could either be an indicator for a compromise or a breach that's about to happen, and then learn from that, right? In the age of machine learning, I think it's going to be even more relevant to provide real-time data, including things like unauthorized changes, so you can then predict that next year during this high load environment or peak season for some retailers, that you're going to encounter some unauthorized changes, and let's be proactive in blocking and mitigating that risk before it happens.
You know, we're sort of coming off of Knowledge 2024 this year, and one of the key service offerings that we at Platformation have been focusing on is CMDB. And so at the booth that we had this year, so many customers were coming up to us and they said, hey, you're one of the only people talking about CMDB. We're struggling with CMDB. You know, nobody has a healthy CMDB. And one of the main things that we're hearing from almost every customer we talk to is there's too much manual intervention. There's too many hands in the pot, too many cooks in the kitchen. And so I think customers are hungry for that. They want that. I think you're really saying a message that would resonate with a lot of people who are struggling with this right now. So I think in closing, my final question for you would be, if you could give a message to the architects out there, the technical folks who are working in these systems and actually using Tanium and using CMDB, if they are trying to, make a business case to say, hey, dear, CIO, CFO, we need this technology and here's why, what would you tell them?
Yeah, it's really important as an architect and even a business process owner to think through stakeholder value. I think that's where you really have to think through, does this make sense? I see a lot of customers and partners investing a lot of time in making sure the CMDB is populated. Instead, we should be carefully thinking through what is the key stakeholder value out of every single data point you're bringing in. And to really leave you with two key things is that stakeholder value should be driven by stakeholders. Talk to them, understand their pain, understand the current challenges around the business process, understand where the CMDB can now be a centralized model to not only scale those use cases out as you grow with and mature in the CMDB, but also be able to take that and reduce cases, reduce incidents, be able to automate as you learn over time, and focus on those high value, high impacting use cases that are going to come to life faster, quicker. With Tanium in the mix, you have real-time data. This is where it completely differentiates it. So Does real-time data apply to IT in the use cases you're trying to deliver with the CMDB? Stakeholder value and real-time data? That is the two things that I would actually look as an architect to design my CMDB.